Larry Sanger, thank you for doing this. I think about you all the time. Literally, I know it's a little creepy because I think that Wikipedia is, you can't overstate the importance of Wikipedia in shaping our collective memory. And a collective memory really is a culture, a civilization. Who are we? And Wikipedia is the answer to that question. Like, who are we? Oh, it's on Wikipedia. And it's so embedded in search that, it shapes America. Wikipedia shapes America. And because of its importance, it's an emergency, in my opinion, that Wikipedia is completely dishonest and completely controlled on questions that matter. The inclusion of the term fringe tells me right away that you're a freaking liar. A liar, if you use that word. Because it's a word like terrorism and so many words, racism, that we can't really define and don't care really to define. Like, what does that mean? And if the whole policy turns on the word, then it's fair to demand a precise explanation of what it means, but we never get one. What is fringe? They can't tell you. Fringe is what I don't like. Fringe is hate speech.
Yes. Or it's simply a new view that is going to become dominant in 10 years or something. Happens all the time.
Galileo, fringe character.
Yeah. Happens all the time in the history of ideas.
No. Right. So that's so obvious. Even a child understands that.
Right.
The key is the definition. And if you can't come up with a definition, then we have to take the word out because it can only abet lying. So how did that get in there?
I think it happened like this. I think Wikipedia developed in sort of in tandem with the development of media. So basically, as media from the founding of Wikipedia, 2001, to about 2012 or so, became solidified in a center-left establishment standpoint. So if you were to read Wikipedia from 2012 or so, 2010, it read a lot like the New York Times or the BBC. I remember saying that at the time. And then, especially around about 2016, and maybe a few years before that, the media landscape changed almost overnight. So that once staid mainstream sources became totally biased. They stated in their own voice that the president was lying and so forth.
And a racist.
And a racist, exactly.
Racist.
Tucker Carlson is a conspiracy theorist. So, for example, and that, of course, then was echoed in Wikipedia. So Wikipedia feels perfectly free to say that Donald Trump is telling lies and that various pundits are conspiracy theorists.
Here's my question. So Wikipedia became a weapon of ideological, theological war, used to, destroy its enemies. Of course, that's what it remains. But someone had to allow that. And that's so far from what it was created to be. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the mirror image of what it was created to be. That you have to ask, was there a fight over that? Who allowed it? If you're getting to the point where you're disallowing, quote, fringe theories or conspiracy theorists or some other term made up by the CIA to hide its secrets, someone has to okay that. What was that process?
It's a good question. You can look at it from an organic point of view. I can't tell you what was going on behind the scenes, if there were any, puppet masters that were controlling the process. I don't know. What I can tell you is that over the years, conservatives, libertarians were just pushed out. They, in many cases, there is a whole, army of administrators, hundreds of them, who are constantly blocking people that they have ideological disagreements with. And that's not new. So if somebody really does become a problem from their perspective, then they can be simply gotten rid of on a pretext. It's very difficult now. It's possible, but it's very difficult for conservatives to get into Wikipedia and actually play the game. But you have to play the game, and that means you have to walk on eggshells. So the point is, it wasn't always like this. Over the years, basically, the left consolidated its power. The way I like to put it is that the left has its marched through the institutions, and when Wikipedia appeared, it was one of the institutions that they marched through.
The difference is it's brand new.
Yeah.
So like I grew up in this country. I've never believed in Harvard. It's absurd. I've always thought it was absurd. I really believed in Wikipedia. I sent money to it. You can check the records. I have sent money, like significant money to Wikipedia because I was so thrilled by its existence. So thrilled. And so it wasn't always this. And now it's like the leading source of dishonesty, or I would say disinformation. I mean, most topics in Wikipedia seem totally straight to me, but if you go to anything that intersects, any topic that intersects with theology, politics, ideology, power, and you know something about the topic, and in my case, a couple of topics that I have firsthand knowledge, direct knowledge of it, they lie. They leave out key information. They load up the top of the entry with either superlatives or insults that are not, they're totally subjective and insane. Far-right conspiracy theory, with a straight face. Like, if you're calling someone a far-right conspiracy theorist before even explaining to me who this person is, then you're a propagandist, you're a liar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I described it as propaganda beginning around 2020. Before that, I don't know that I would have given it that word. It was already emerging,
I agree. No, this has happened before our eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when did you leave and why?
Oh, a long time ago. Yeah, 2002. So, no, I was only there for the first 2 years of the project. I got it off the ground. I set a lot of the original policies. And then so the company that launched Wikipedia, Bombus Inc. So Jimmy Wales was the CEO of that, and he had a couple of partners. So it was my job to start it, and I did. And then the bottom fell out of the tech market.
That's for sure.
Yeah, back in 2000. So they lost a big contract with, I think it was Google. And so they weren't able to pay people anymore. I was laid off. And I made the decision to, just step back from my role. I would have been welcome to continue on, but I decided not to basically devalue my professional labor. But with distance in 2002, I saw that Jimmy Wales was essentially allowing troublemakers, leftists, really, to take over, and they did. As early as that, it took them time, I think, to really consolidate their power and create sort of internal processes and institutions and policies that really consolidated their power. But yeah.
Who is Jimmy Wales, and what's he like?
Jimmy Wales is the other co-founder of Wikipedia. He's got a finance degree. Let's see. He comes from Alabama. He went to a private school in Alabama, I think. I knew him from, online debating forums about Ayn Rand in the mid-1990s. I actually met him face-to-face on a little junket that I took to visit my uncle. So I just made a stopover in Chicago when he was living there. So I met him before he hired me to start Wikipedia. But he's a very personable person, actually. If you meet him for the first time and you don't know anything about him.
What are his views?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I'd like to know. They used to be broadly libertarian.
Yes.
But he's now associated with the left. He has got a lot of lefty pals. And so I think he would probably say he still is, a believer in classical liberalism or something like that. But I don't know if I believe it.
Well, look at the results.
Right.
I mean, it's an authoritarian enterprise, and it's a it's Izvestia, and but with much greater reach and a much more profound effect, and it's one of the worst things about our society, actually.
But let's be fair to Jimmy Wales here. It isn't clear that he approves of the current approach that Wikipedia is taking.
I've never spoken to Jimmy Wales other than to send him money years ago. And let me ask you about the money. So it's a nonprofit, correct?
Yes.
Can you make money from it?
Oh, of course. Just like any big nonprofit that's raising hundreds of millions of dollars, you can essentially transfer money through grants, and now they are a grant-making institution. So, I certainly don't need to explain to you how really big foundations work, right? But money can change hands. Large amounts of money can change hands through institutions like the Wikimedia Foundation. That's the name of.
So, can you describe how the process works? So we've got, Wikipedia entry on you, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? And I haven't actually read your Wikipedia entry. I'm sure it's hostile in a subtle way, but
it's actually okay.
It's okay. I've never read my own Wikipedia entry, not one time, because I don't want to.
I don't blame you.
Don't want to go crazy, because I am an expert on that subject. So I feel like I could probably compare their description to what I know to be true, and it would just make me angry, and I don't want to be angry. But I have no doubt that it's hostile, right?
It'd piss you off.
Oh, is that true?
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Have you read it?
I think I've read the first paragraph anyway.
Pretty tough, huh?
I think so.
You know what? I'm not just saying this. Anyone who knows me knows it's true. I've never done this before, but I'm going to look it up right now, and I'm just going to read the first paragraph.
Well, this should
I promise I've never. I don't even know where it is. Oh, there it is, right there. Huh? Oh, I knew I was going to. This is the first paragraph. It basically just says, I'm a conservative political commentator. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a leading voice of white grievance politics.
White grievance politics.
Okay, I thought I was going to be mad. I'm amused. I don't even know what that is. White grievance politics. Okay, so then you click on white grievance politics, and it cites columnist Michael Gerson, who I happen to know. Not someone who I think has passed away. I'm sorry. I don't want to make fun of him. But he's not he was an ideologue, okay, big time ideologue. And it quotes his quote, non-primary source needed, it says in brackets, that the Republican Party has been swiftly repositioned as an instrument of white grievance. I guess it was a column attacking me. No doubt about that. So they call me in the first paragraph a leading voice of white grievance politics. Not how I describe myself. I've never thought of myself that way. I don't really care. And in order to call me, basically they're calling me a Nazi, of course. They cite a Washington Post columnist who hated me.
Right.
And that's the citation?
Right. Yes. That's pretty much it. If they were following a genuine neutrality policy, then they might say that if that was what your detractors were really focused on, and perhaps it is, but they would certainly quote you in response to that.
And they would give examples. I mean, it wouldn't be ad hominem. It would be, quoting me saying, white people are angry. We have a lot of grievances and they're justified. Okay. There he is, espousing white grievance politics.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think I've done that, though I do think that, by the way. So maybe I am a white grievance politics guy. But whatever, I don't even care. But it's just interesting. They don't care either. The point is to make you sound scary and Hitler-like.
Right. No, that's right. Yeah. I don't know what white grievance politics is, and I'm pretty sure you're not into it.
I'm actually not into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think white people have been completely mistreated, and they have every reason to be mad about it, but I don't want anyone to be mad about anything, and I definitely don't want racial conflict. I've never wanted that.
Yes.
So, but whatever, but it's not about me, and I'm sort of sorry I even brought that up.
No,
and that's all I'm ever going to read in my Wikipedia entry. But that's kind of the point. How is it allowed to use subjective terms with no clear definition in someone's entry? That's a political term. That's a term of propaganda.
Yeah.
It's a term designed to discredit, not to illuminate or explain, but to attack. That's very common in political language, if that is political language. But how is that? How is no editor like, wait a second, we don't even define white grievance politics. How can we accuse someone of engaging in it?
Yeah. There's a lot of history and we could take it in many different directions. Okay. I mean, we've already talked about the policy that permits it. We could also talk about the sources that are permitted. Like, if you look at only the sources that are permitted to be used in Wikipedia, so mostly secondary sources, and they are mostly left-wing or center, generally speaking, there is now a blacklist called the Perennial Sources page that contains lists of dozens of conservative sources that are just not allowed. So if the only defenders of Tucker Carlson can be found in those other sources, then you won't be defended in the article about you, and they will call the article about you neutral.
That's quite amazing. Who makes the decision on the blacklist?
So there is a reliable sources group, essentially, that debates it. Now, there are people who spend the most time, probably are working full-time for somebody on Wikipedia. They build up a lot of clout.
What does that mean, working full-time for somebody on Wikipedia?
Well, there are PR firms, just for example, that do nothing but edit articles on Wikipedia in order to be able to insert desired factoids according to how people pay them, essentially. So it's a thing. Oh, yes, Wikipedia PR firms, essentially. And this is not allowed officially. It's called paid editing, a big no-no. And if you do it, then you have to announce yourself. A lot of people do it and they don't announce themselves, of course. So my point then, to answer your question, is that there are a lot of people who have built up clout over the years in the Wikipedia system. And a lot of them have been made into the leaders of the project. There are 833 administrators, as they're called. So these are sort of the rank and file cops. Mm-hmm. Then you've got 16 bureaucrats who can name the cops. Then you've got 49 check users, and these are accounts that can identify the IP address of accounts. And then there are 15 members of an arbitration committee, which is sort of like the Supreme Court of Wikipedia. Deals mostly with behavioral issues as opposed to editorial. So now, here's an interesting...
Do we know who these people are?
That's what I was about to answer. Of this Power 62, because if you add up all of those accounts and there's overlap, there's 62 such accounts. Only 14.5% are named. So 85% of the most powerful accounts on Wikipedia on the editorial side are anonymous. So
Wait a second.
No, it's true.
So again, these are the people who are shaping Americans' understanding of the world, of their own country, of themselves, of reality itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know who they are because their identities are hidden?
That's correct. Yes. They can libel people with impunity as they do you. And there is no legal recourse because they are anonymous. And the Wikimedia Foundation enjoys
into better behavior.
Right.
But presumably they can be shamed and reasoned with. And the first step in that is just asking the question, on what grounds are you keeping the identities of some of the most powerful people in the country secret? Why can't I know who's making these decisions? Who's blacklisting entire news organizations on the basis of their politics, for example? Who's responsible for the slander? Why can't I know their names? What would Wikipedia, the foundation, say if I asked that question?
They would say that according to the policies of the editorial side of their organization, which they're not responsible for, people can participate anonymously at all levels, right? So you could be the most powerful person on the editorial side, and you don't need to reveal your identity. It's a matter of policy. Now,
talk about a non-answer. They're hiding their identities because they're allowed to. Okay, got it.
Well, yes.
Okay. But why are they allowed to?
Okay, so I think the answer is basically it goes back to like the zeitgeist of 1990s hacker culture when people went on like these funny names, nicknames, handles, not their real names. And that has continued. It never stopped. All across Wikipedia, people use these sort of cutesy names, and they like to portray themselves to the public as just, mop-wielding janitors of the site. And of course, it's ludicrous, right? But it's just, as far as I can tell, it's a game that they're playing. They're putting on the air of being like harmless college students that are only interested in comma placement and that sort of thing. So why do you need to know my identity and so forth? But I'll tell you, they just haven't pressed them on this question.
Well, and they should be pressed immediately. And I mean, because just in practical terms, as you said, it's ludicrous. Who has more effect on Americans or the world's understanding of history, the 7 history departments of the Ivy League or Wikipedia? It's not even close. It's not even close, not in the same universe.
Yes.
But if all of a sudden every history professor at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Columbia, Dartmouth, Cornell, et cetera, decided, I'm not telling you my name as I teach your kids about the Renaissance or whatever, we would say that's freaking nuts. Of course you have to know your name.
Right. And, traditional media organizations, they name their editors and their journalists, of course. They have real world reputation to live up to.
Yes.
And if they do bad reporting, then they can be fired. They experience career consequences. And that simply doesn't happen on Wikipedia. Now, people, they can mess up on Wikipedia and be kicked out. They can lose their administratorship, whatever. That happens, I suppose. But it's not real world consequences, is it? Not really.
No, it's not. And so I'm sort of getting to one of my core concerns, which you've made me think is something to be concerned about, which is the influence of intelligence agencies on the work product of Wikipedia. It's very obvious to me, having been around that world a lot, that they're influencing some of the answers, some of the entries on Wikipedia. It's just like super, super obvious. It's part of the propaganda campaign, which is the real war, the info war. And like, you must have thought of that when you were building this thing. Like, man, the intel agencies could get involved and start changing the way people understand what they did, for example.
No.
You didn't? You never thought of it?
No, I had no such idea. Not in 2001, in 2000, 2002. No, I mean, I was a babe in the woods Yes, it wasn't until like, I think it was 2006, 2007, Virgil Griffiths did master's research. He came up with a tool called Wikiscanner that enabled people to look up the IP addresses of people who had done edits, and like who had edited which articles. And so they were able to find a whole bunch of edits coming from Langley.
No. Oh, I didn't even know that.
No, it's true.
Not to brag. I could just tell by reading it, like, because I know what that is, right? So
I since have learned differently and learned much better. I don't have the background that you have, but it's also very clear to me what we are told about the way that intelligence works now is that, of course, there's the old-fashioned cloak and dagger spying going on, but a large part of the remit of intelligence today is to manipulate public opinion in various ways. And Wikipedia is like just a gold mine for the intelligence agencies of the world because it's like a one-stop shop. You can just like type in the things that you want people to believe, I suppose. Now, how that works, like which agencies are involved, how the heck should I know?
Well, you can tell by reading it. You can tell instantly by reading it. Some of what's going on. I mean, you never know the whole story, of course, but it's super obvious to me. Some of the players in this, very obvious, and they're the big ones, of course. Mm-hmm. So, but my question, and everything you've said makes sense. My question, however, is like, how is this allowed? So if you're not allowed to edit Wikipedia for pay on behalf of, say, a PR agency, mm-hmm. how are you allowed to do it on behalf of an intelligence agency?
That's a good question. I actually asked Elon Musk and the president to use Doge or other government resources to investigate what United States employees were actually editing Wikipedia, and perhaps stop that. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe there's reasons, legitimate reasons for government employees to do this. But at least Elon Musk did retweet that, and got a lot of support. So
did anyone do anything about it?
What's that?
Did anyone do anything about it?
Not to my knowledge, except now there is a congressional investigation. I don't know if my tweet had anything to do with the start of that. I don't think so. I think it had more to do with the reporting of Ashley Rinsberg. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, Israel, and I would add Hindus, are very bothered with the way that their ethnic groups are treated in Wikipedia, and both of them, a whole bunch of Jews and a whole bunch of Hindus have been after me in the last couple of years, saying, "You've got to speak out. You've got to help us." Yeah. And I've said, well, I don't really know a lot about the situation. I mean, there isn't a whole lot that I could do.
Will they be accused of Indian or Israeli grievance politics? Probably not.
What's that?
No, sorry. I'm just thinking like. No, I that was a bitter, sardonic aside. Excuse me. I take that back. I don't want to be a grievance person. Of course. But the answer, what you're really saying is people who are organized have a way to push back against the lying.
For sure. I think that if like Israeli intelligence, for example, got together and made a real concerted effort to fight against this group of 40 Muslim activists that Ashley Rinsberg identified, they might be able to make some inroads.
Oh, you think they might be able to do that?
Yeah, they might. Yeah, it really depends.
It's possible. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I actually think concurrently, we're going to talk about the 9 theses here, I assume. So I would like to encourage people to at least test the waters. Don't go to Wikipedia and be a jerk and get yourself kicked out right away, because they will kick you out for sure if you are not playing by the rules. But go there and maybe not all at once, but over the next few weeks, make some real efforts to make good faith edits to Wikipedia and build up some credibility within the community. You can make a difference there. I think it's a good idea to give it a try. One thing that has never been tried is to simply get all of the libertarians and all of the conservatives and the Jews and the Hindus and the Christians and whoever else has grievances against Wikipedia, organize them.
Yes. That never occurs to most conservatives. Their first instinct is to, I'll speak for myself. My first instinct is to run away. I don't want to deal with this. It's horrible.
Oh, me too.
I hate these people. And this is my internal monologue. And if I'm mad enough, we should start something better. It never occurs to your average conservative to take back the institution that's been perverted and corrupted. It never occurs to them, well, maybe I should, I don't know, try to join the faculty at Harvard and stop lying, you know what I mean? Or why don't I fix Wikipedia? And I think you're right.
Yeah. So I think it was either the first or second interview that you did of me was in 2019 when I started something called a social media strike. It actually went pretty well, but it always struck me that, first of all, I could have followed it up. And second of all, it could have been much bigger, like if I had organized it properly. But it was mostly just me and my blog, and still there were like a half a dozen or 10 different media sources that covered this social media strike. So maybe we should organize something similar with regard to
I think
Wikipedia.
part of the problem is that most non-liberals have just no patience for bureaucracy.
Right.
And liberals, because they, as Ted Kaczynski famously wrote, the whole point of liberalism is safety in numbers. These are people who are hollow and afraid inside. And so they seek each other out and they create these institutions so they can feel safe. And non-liberals just don't feel that way at all, because they're not, because they believe in something and they're not ruled by fear. And so the average conservative, when told to sit through like a PTA meeting or join the Wikipedia, editor's process or something, like, goes crazy, can't deal with it.
Right.
Do you notice this?
Yes. And there's another sort of practical problem that stands in the way of this. There's you're not allowed to do what's called brigading on Wikipedia. So